GBPUSD. Now, on the GBPUSD, we had an interesting 24 hours here where we were able to scoop in over 120 pips on multiple entries on this one as price dropped significantly in the last 24 hours following that positive data coming in from the producer price index and the retail sales data from the United States. Though before this breakdown of structure, before the sell pressure began yesterday, price has been a little bit choppy. We have been buying. We bought a couple of times, which really didn't move very well as both positions was close at a worst case scenario break even. And this further emphasized the level of indecision prior to yesterday's trading session. And this is could be connected to the anticipation of the major events we were looking forward to this week. Now remember, at the beginning of the week we bought right here at the breakout of the 1.24940. Price moved about 40 pips. We got taken out of that position with a small size of profit or worst case scenario break even, and this was the reason why we bought. Let me run through that quickly. Remember that at the beginning of this week we acknowledged that price action has been on a strong bearish momentum, and this further was emphasized with this descending trend line that you see on your screen right now. And at the beginning of the week, we saw our price started the week on a strong bullish note as we saw price break out of the descending trend line. And from a technical standpoint, when price breaks out of a trend line like this, it's a sign that a trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate the bullish attempt. And in that regard, we bought above that area. We were taking out at a worst case scenario break even, and in fact we looked forward to a retest of the trend line to add more buy position. So we saw price break out of structure. Price came back to retest the trend line, and in fact we saw buy pressure here, which lasted about 7 hours before this momentum came in. We joined again, moved our stop loss accordingly. We were taken out again with a modest size of profit as price dropped to the downside. Now, while these all buy positions we were taking advantage of was happening, we saw that our price gradually transitioned into a lower highs scenario here, giving us clues into how strong the sellers are in this market. Now, during our live session yesterday, we acknowledged the breakout of the trend line, and then we saw price caught within a range here between the 1.25 and the 1.24875. So this was where our center of focus was during our live session yesterday. And of course, you know how we do it. Whenever we have a range like this, we want to exercise patience, waiting for either a breakout of the range to give us an opportunity to buy, or the breakdown retest of the range to give us an opportunity to sell. And of course, we saw what happened here. Yesterday we saw the breakout retest of the structure, inciting the bearish momentum, and since yesterday we continue to sell. And I told us all yesterday that for those who had missed out on this breakdown retest of the 1.24875, that we can get ready to join the breakdown of the 1.24620. And you see what happened here. Price dropped during the first hour of the New York session. I think after the data that came in yesterday, and we also identified levels such as the 1.245 to add more position to our existing trade. So though the week started very slow, but our patience paid off at the end of the day as we were able to capitalize on that bearish move that came in during the second half of this week. And once again, congratulations to everyone who are taking advantage of this move. Now, going into the New York session today, of course, we don't have any sell positions running prior to the session, as I personally added one more around this area, and if you are taking advantage of that one, it's quite okay and beautiful. Just ensure that you move your stop losses accordingly, and I will be sharing with you why it is very important that we move our stop losses, as anything could still happen from this area. Now look at what happened here. So since the beginning of today's when I was trying to decipher what our next line of action would be for today, I observed here that since price got to this lowest point at the 1.23 975, we begin to see the appearance of buy pressure since the later part of the New York session yesterday, and this resulted into a reversal pattern looking like the double bottom structure. As we saw, price came into this area, it came back here, and the inability of price to break down the previous low was a sign that a bullish momentum is gradually gaining behind the scenes. And in fact, we have a double the bottom structure, which from a technical standpoint is a strong reversal pattern. And you all know how we do it here in this community. When we start seeing reversal patterns like this, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify a neckline which lines exactly with the 1.24 150 area, and all we need here to validate this reversal pattern is a breakout retest of the neckline. Now, if you look at what has been going on since the early hours of today, we saw here how price broke out of the neckline, and it appears price is going through a scenario where it is going to come down and retest the neckline, where the appearance of buy pressure will be inciting an uptrend scenario. Now we are at a crucial moment in the market right now where price is just right back at that neckline area at the 1.24 150. Now at this point in time, patience is hereby required here. So we want to see how the market is going to be reacting to the 1.24 150. So if we begin to see buy pressure resume around that area, then definitely we want to be getting ready to join an uptrend scenario. Now, to give a visual representation of what to look out for around here, I want to see something like a double bottom structure, head and shoulder pattern. Most importantly, I want to see that sellers are finding it difficult to stay below the 1.24 150, and this would reflect the tendencies of buyers to push price to the upside. And if this happens and continue buy pressure resumes here, then we will have no other choice than to join. Then a breakout of both the 1.24 350 level and that ascending trend line. What a beautiful confluence we have here. And that descending trend line, sorry, will be welcoming more buying opportunities in this market. So let's see how this is going to play out. I'm not saying that we are going to ignore the potentials of sellers here, but the appearance of buy pressure around this area where price transitioned into a reversal pattern is looking more promising at this point in time. And if we consider today being the last trading day of the week, where majority in the market always try to round off their positions ahead of the weekend after being part of a bearish move during the week, I'm of the opinion that we cannot ignore the potentials of buyers too, as well as we could see some reversal setups that will lead to both the breakout of the descending trend line and the 1.24950 level. So we want to be marking out these levels on our chart, and let's be on standby to capitalize on that move. Now, in as much as we're looking out for a reversal setup here that will push price to the upside, we cannot ignore the potentials of sellers. In fact, in the last 24-36 hours, price action has been going through lower lows and lower highs in this market. Now, for me personally, for me to sell or add more sell position to my existing trade here, I will need price to take out the 1.23975, a level which of course firstly is the lowest point since the beginning of the week, and of course it has been characterized with buy pressure here since the New York session yesterday. So I would like price to take out all the buy positions here to give me some confidence that we are in for another wave of bearish momentum. However, there is something I would like to state here, that we might be opportune to be part of a bearish momentum even before the breakdown of that zone happens. Now, if it so happens that price, instead of rejecting this area to incite an uptrend breaking out of that descending trend line, we might see a situation where this area becomes a barrier for buyers and selling pressure resumes around that area, hereby increasing the chances of price action going to the downside. So if we begin to see setups around this area that portrays tendencies of sellers coming in, as we see buyers finding it difficult to break out of that descending trend line, then we want to be part of that bearish move and then look forward to adding more positions at the breakout of the 1.23975 level. So that is how we are going to be selling today. So we do want to be marking out these levels on our chart. Very, very important, as it will be guiding us on what our next course of action will be here. So our center of focus for today is basically between the 1.24350 and the 1.23975, where depending on how price reacts to the structure will determine where we shall be heading to on the last trading day of this week. So that is my view here on the GBP USD. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know right in the comment section.